When a game warden goes after poachers, he knows two things about them even before he sees them. One, they will be very unhappy to see him. Two, they will be carrying guns. It takes a special courage to walk into that kind of a situation time after time, hunting season after hunting season. But that is exactly what Dave Hall has done for the last 25 years. And he's done even more. Dave Hall has turned some of the most notorious poachers in the United States into some of conservation's most vigorous activists. Poachers into preachers, he calls it. Dave Hall, a special agent with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, is with us now. He is joined by two of his converts, Pat Pitt, who was known around Memphis as King Mallard, and Dennis Treitler, a fourth-generation Louisiana marshman, two of the finest poachers ever to take up the cause of wildlife preservation. Welcome to all of you.
Thank you, Betsy.
Thank you,
Dave, you've got to tell me first, how serious a problem is this? Are you just talking about a few bad guys out there shooting animals?
Well, it's a serious problem in that it's been traditional in this country. It's part of our culture to hunt and to take game, and some of the people that came over from Europe had been, particularly the poorer people, suppressed in all types of criminal activity because of Robin Hood syndrome, we call it. They came over seeking a freedom to be able to take what they wanted and when they wanted. And we're still living with that to a certain extent, but I think we're on the right path now because these guys can do more to educate people about the importance of wildlife laws than anyone.
Pat, I want to know about you guys. I want to know what kind of a hunter you were. What did you do? Talk about numbers and hours and livelihood.
Well, I lived it. When I was in school, I daydreamed it, and I drew pictures of it. I laid awake at night thinking about it. I felt like I was, even in my time, I was walking where nobody had ever walked. I was a pioneer, and it was something that I became obsessed with at a very early age.
What was it like? Was it the kill that was important? Was it the beauty of it?
Well, it was, to me, it was the thrill of competition, and it was, the climax was the kill, yes. We were very competitive in my group. A group of hunters would kill more ducks than this group of hunters, and that group of hunters would go out and try to kill more than this, and it was, we were treated as heroes because we were killing more ducks and more geese than anybody, but it was a way we were doing it that was, people didn't look on it as wrong. I took judges and doctors and lawyers with me, and they stood ankle deep in birds and continued to shoot them, and it was never told to me as wrong. But I was brought up to know right from wrong. Went to church every day. I didn't steal candy at the store or anything, but I'd shoot over the limited ducks. I'd shoot them from September to April because they were there, and nobody ever once told me I was breaking the law. I knew it.
Sounds like a lot of ducks. Tell me numbers. What are you really talking about? Shock me.
I don't really have any idea. I'd shoot 3 or 4 cases of shells a year. That's 500 rounds to a case, and I'm not a bad shot. I'm a pretty good shot. We would kill. We'd probably average, 40 or 50 ducks on a good day. Sometimes up over 100 a day. And this was when I started hunting. We were in an area that's not known for its ducks. East Tennessee didn't have ducks like Arkansas. When I moved to Memphis, I thought I'd died and gone to heaven. They had more ducks out there than you can imagine, and I felt like, I want to, I've died and go to heaven.
Jesus, you didn't want to sleep because you'd miss time shooting.
I would lose sleep over the fact that I had hunted one day and not killed all the ducks I've seen. I mean, it was, it would drive me crazy.
So a guy like this was a threat to everything that you loved in life.
Him?
I mean, he wanted to put you out of business.
I hated him. I hated what he stood for, not just him. But, you got to understand, in my neighborhood, in my area, a game warden was the devil's himself. I mean, you'd go to church, and the game warden and his family have a whole pew to themselves. The garbage men and the shoplifters and the people on work release, they'd sit right next to you. But game wardens were treated like dirt, and we had no respect for them.
It's wonderful to be loved, Dave, isn't it?
Well, I never did worry about that, but I did know that these people are not, in the truest sense, criminals. We did research. We found out they knew more about wildlife and actually cared more about wildlife. So I knew if we could ever get these guys to see the light and the grandfather syndrome, and they start getting older and thinking about their grandkids and they see the resources declining, hunters are basically the best conservationists. And I know some people are shocked to hear that, but that's true. And without this interest in hunting and saving land, wildlife can't survive.
Well, we've got a duck killer over here. I want to play Can You Top This? Dennis, you got a better story than Pat does about how much shooting you did and what you killed?
Well, I don't know about topping it. My whole life did and still does evolve around duck hunting. 365 days a year. I just think about duck hunting constantly. It's the most driving, the hardest driving force that I've ever experienced. Numbers, well, we killed a few.
Hundreds.
Thousands. We'd start shooting in August when the first ducks came down, and we wouldn't stop shooting until April when the bulk of them went back, and we were killing in between April and August our ducks that stayed locally. And I guess we would average on an average hunt anywhere from 15 to 20 to 300 or 400.
Dennis, I thought you were a lover, and you're telling me you were a killer. We have to take time out for a break. When we come back, I want to look at some pictures of just what you all do. Okay? Stay with us. Welcome back. Dave, tell me how you catch these guys. I mean, you go out there and they hate you and you don't feel too wonderful about what they're doing.
Well, it's changed considerably. When I first started 30 years ago, there was a much stronger feeling of us against them than there is today. Basically, we try in the Fish and Wildlife Service to catch those poachers having the greatest negative impact. That's the reason we targeted Pat Pitt. We never got Treitler. We got all his buddies and put them in jail, and he happened to get away from us that particular time.
He was too good for you.
That's right. I hate to admit that. But anyway, we try to work on those people that are having the greatest negative impact. And then we've had good support from our federal courts in getting the type of penalties where that's the important issue, is not only penalize the individual, but to get the message out to their peers that this is not worth it. And then once they get the feeling of this conservation ethic, they become born again, and the fervor they use to poach is even accelerated in doing what's right and making the sport better. But it's considerably different. Compliance levels, like for waterfowler, much greater than they were 5 years ago even.
What would happen today if you would catch someone like Pat? What would the penalty be? Would you have to go to jail?
Yeah.
Would there be a fine?
There would be a combination in the courts where we've done the most work. It'd be a combination of things. You'd have a big fine. If you were a repeat offender, if you had a serious offense, you'd go to jail up to 6 months. You would probably get 300 hours of community service, and you would lose your privilege to hunt for 5 years, 3 to 5 years, and that is the penalty that they fear the worst.
That really gets you. Let's take a look at a piece of a documentary that you made so that the public can see what's going on out there and what you're trying to do.
I want to see it stopped. I want my kids, I want my little grandson. My little grandson is everything to me right now. I want my grandson to be able to come sit in the blind, and sit next to Papa. And I want Papa to teach him what to do and to do it right. And I want him to be able to tell his sons, yeah, my Papa was an outlaw, and he stopped because it was wrong.
You know, I felt like I was Superman. You know, catch me if you can. And nobody ever could. And I finally got caught. And that was probably the worst day of my life as far as, you know, having to deal with something that I brought on myself. What kind of hunting did we do in September over on the Byers farm?
Kill.
Teal?
Kill.
How many did we kill?
4.
How come we just shot 4?
That was our limit.
I just can't believe, you know, some of the things that I've done, people have done, that teaching these kids to violate would be like teaching them to go rob a 7-Eleven, I guess. It just, same difference.
In the introduction to this interview, we showed a picture of a helicopter. Tell me about that helicopter and what that means to somebody who's out there looking for a mallard and looking up and seeing a helicopter.
I'll tell you what, I could talk to you about this helicopter. My best friends were hunting right on the side of me. And I guess it was just a fate thing. All of my years of poaching, I've never been caught. This helicopter just came out of nowhere. And I'll tell you, we had ducks laying everywhere, but we were shooting real good. We had baited the ponds real heavy. The ducks were coming in, I mean, just to die. And I'll tell you what, this helicopter come out of nowhere and sat down and booked my friends. And I'm going to tell you what, when I saw that helicopter, that really started to change my mentality of thinking.
But didn't that just scare you because you thought you'd get caught? How did that change your thinking?
Well, I knew that these federal people, like Pat had said, we were taught to hate these people, okay? Not to trust anybody. And you have to understand the schooling process that goes on.
Who teaches you that? I mean, when you're a little kid,
Yeah.
do you hear that?
My dad taught us every day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, not to trust a game warden or any stranger pertaining, you know, to waterfowl. And when we were kids, we were learning how to blow duck calls. My dad is a duck calling champion. He's never been beaten. He's my idol when it comes to duck hunting. But we would learn how to blow this duck call, and we were taught every day. And while we were being taught how to blow this duck caller, we were taught ways to get away from this man. And believe me when I'm telling you, if you'd see some of the things that we went through.
Okay, Dave, this is the kind of a guy you come up against.
Mm-hmm.
How do you reach him? How do you convert him?
It's easy, because, see, I come from the same background in that I'm a hunter. I will go to my grave being a hunter. I understand the problem. The problem goes back to Europe, where the common folk were not allowed to hunt, and they were tortured and punished for almost 2,000 years. And there's a resentment for this. That's why Robin Hood's so popular. Robin Hood represents, he's
Basically
beating
the same thing.
the Royal
New movie
Forest
out about him
Guard.
right now.
Yeah. But what did you do?
Well, it's
to
basically
convince
be
these
persistent.
guys?
I'd go back to them and say, look, do you realize what you guys are doing? You're tearing apart the very things we both love.
Yeah.
You gotta
And then
understand.
finally, they start realizing, hey, you know, we don't have as much as what we used to have.
Yeah.
And this helicopter,
Oh, yeah.
they went with me to Minnesota to start the Isaac Walton League of America Helicopter Fund with the Minnesota Waterfowl Association to buy us a new helicopter, and through contributions from the public, we got a brand new $650,000 helicopter that you saw in that bust in 2 airboats.
Pat, what finally got to you? What convinced you?
Well, getting caught didn't really convince me. It made me mad.
Did you go to jail?
No, ma'am. I have 6 months probation and a fine. You know, that didn't really bother me. I was right back out. 2 weeks after I was caught, I was in Alaska and shot 47 boxes of shells in 3 days up there. But that didn't convince me. My kids convinced me.
Yeah.
My kids are my conscience. Because I'm stealing from them. I'm stealing from his.
Is that what they said to you?
No.
What'd they say?
Dave gave me the chance to let my conscience be my guide, and I decided to take it. So I got tired of hunting and looking over my shoulder every time I killed another duck.
And he didn't tell you you were a bad guy. He just
No,
educated you.
he really became my friend.
Well, I remember very much. I was doing a symposium in Memphis, Tennessee, and after it was over, he came up and says, I want to make a confession to you, and I'm willing to take you to my home and show you all my pictures and bring your video camera. So that's the reason I started using the video camera, is to get some of this on the record.
Yeah, he was like, you know, Father Confessor. Forgive me, Dave, for I've sinned.
That's right.
You feel like a criminal?
Not really. I feel bad over some of the things I've done, but I don't feel like a criminal because everybody does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On that note, we've got lots more to talk about, but we've got to take a break. Stay with us. Hello, we're still here. I want to know what happened when you were born again and you went home to the rest of your families who hadn't seen the light. I mean, did you take a lot of heat?
I did, yeah. My parents, my dad, my brothers, my mother, they all thought that this was a giant sting operation. My brother still thinks it. They still don't trust this man, and that's going to come with time. They think that he's doing this, that this is going to be a national lynch job, and I'm going to be the lynchee.
But you're convinced.
I tell you what, my heart and soul is in this. I believe in what I'm doing more than anything in the whole world. This is important, and I care.
And you know what's so important about it?
What?
Is that where he lived a few years ago, we had the worst problem with violators that we had anywhere almost in the whole state of Louisiana. We've had almost no problems down there since Dennis really got involved in this teaching in the public school. He teaches it, the little children in the schoolroom about all this, and it's working.
And then the kids go back and talk to their dads.
Yeah, and I have a chance to talk to the dads too, but over a period of time, okay, the way a person thinks, especially down there, it's really changing, you know, pertaining to the wildlife and in the fisheries and everything. People are really starting to see that this guy isn't the bad guy. This guy, he's here to help us have what we have.
Now, Dave, there are hunters and there are hunters.
Yeah.
There are hunters who hunt because it's a way of life and because it's all you ever knew, and you love it.
Yeah. It's our foundation of this country. George Washington was a tremendous hunter. It's part of our culture and tradition. If it's done right, in the spirit of fair chase, it's the best salvation for wildlife. But then you have the commercial guy.
And the commercial guy is in it for the money. Now, you're telling me that there are a lot of guys in this country who are doing that, and when I think of commercial poaching, I think of Kenya and elephants, and I think of crocodile skins, but you're saying it's here.
It absolutely is here, and that person, when you profile him, is not like Pat or Dennis.
What is he?
He's an illegal merchant. He sells cocaine or he'll sell whatever. He has no feeling for the environment or for what these guys, the culture of hunting and being in the marsh. He is only a merchant that will deal anything that's illegal. In that sense, he is a true criminal. He's not the same type person of the hunters in this country. The hunters in this country are, and I think I've been from one end of this country to the other, people that are caught up in the hunting ethics and the hunting movement with their children and all this are the finest citizens in this country. They're not evil and perverted. That really bothers me because I'm caught in the middle here. I'm trying to protect these resources, but if we save wildlife, it's going to be from the hunters' interests, like these guys, of saving a habitat and converting other people over to understanding conservation.
How big a problem is commercial poaching?
Well, it's a tremendous problem. You know, poaching, I was always thought of as an outlaw, not a poacher, but yes, it was that. But you're talking megabucks here. You're talking some of these operations will, you know, they've got to produce. They have got to produce. You know, people pay their money. They want to kill something. And you're talking some operations that make untold thousands of dollars at the expense of the wildlife.
Is hunting a different experience for you now when you go out?
I enjoy it more.
Yeah.
I enjoy them. Well, I want to tell you a little story real quick about what I have instilled in my children. I've had my 2 boys hunting with us in Arkansas. We were in a pit, which is an underground blind, as it is, in a rice field. And I had a couple of doctors and a lawyer in there with us, and I had my 2 little boys. They were 6 and 8 then. And got a bunch of ducks in. We threw the top back on the pit, and, you know, we came up and knocked down several birds. And the first bird back that my dog brought me was crippled, and I took it from him and smacked his head against the side of the pit and tossed it in the bottom of it and sent him after another bird. And my oldest son was 8 then, and he gets down in the bottom of the pit and picks it up out of the mud and wipes it all off and smooths all the feathers back. And he looks me right in the eye and he says, "Dad," he says, "I don't mind you killing the ducks, but show a little more respect for them." And that brought me down. And when somebody that young can care that much about the resource, I'm gonna do all I can to save it for them.
And hunting's changed for you too.
Quite a bit. I never really hunted. I killed. I never hunted. And hunting right now, all of these years that I did all of this killing, I really never enjoyed the sport of hunting, the fair chase thing. And I'm going to tell you what, it's a whole new meaning to me. And I enjoy it more than anything. And look, last year, you know, this old saying that, well, one man just can't make a difference. I think the most important thing that I did in my community, I got 20 illegal hunters to hunt ducks again for the first time. And that really meant something to me, because one man can make a difference.
It's an amazing story. Don't you feel wonderful about not only what you've accomplished for the country,
I feel wonderful in some
for
ways.
the men you've converted.
Yeah, I feel good about this, but I'm very concerned about the demographics of our country, where people don't ever see a sun come up and see the things I've seen in the boys. See, I was raised on eating wild game, and I still do.
Yeah.
I'm afraid that we are learning about nature the wrong way. We're learning and not putting down television, but most people in this country will never experience what we've experienced. And so they're trying in a way to stop hunting, which would be the worst thing that could ever happen to wildlife.
Dave, as a city kid, I want to thank you.
Okay, well.
I want to thank you.
Yeah,
You taught me a lot.